Welcome to our deep dive into the world of building and sim games on Steam. You know, they're everywhere these days. And you've given us some really fascinating reviews to dig into.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at three games, Infinifactory, Go Town, and Starground, all released pretty recently, and players seem to love them.
And the cool thing is they're all so different, right?
Mm.
Like different corners of this whole building and sim world. We've got, hardcore factory puzzles,
Mm.
a chill, like, town builder,
Yeah.
and something that, like, mashes automation with a dungeon crawler.
Yeah, it really shows how diverse this genre has become.
Totally.
But just so we're all on the same page, when we say building and sim, what are we even talking about? I mean,
Yeah.
it's all about those games where you get to create things, manage complex systems, optimize stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it's conveyor belts or a whole town, it's about seeing your vision come to life
Yeah.
and then like tinkering with it until it runs perfectly.
Right. And that's exactly what's clicking with players right now, like
Yep.
that sense of agency, that you can build something from scratch and then watch it evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into it. Starting with Infinifactory, this game's been out since like 2015,
Wow.
but it's still super popular. Have you ever played Space Chem?
I have, yeah.
It's kind of like that, but in 3D, aliens abduct you and make you build these crazy factories using conveyor belts, welders, all sorts of gadgets. It's wild.
You know what I'm seeing in these reviews is it's not just that it's a good puzzle game, it's that feeling you get when you finally solve a level.
Yeah.
Some reviewers even compare it to that aha moment. You know, when you crack a tough riddle?
I love those moments.
It's so satisfying.
Yeah, and Infinifactory doesn't just want a solution, right?
Right.
It wants the best solution.
Efficiency.
Yeah. You can see how you stack up against other players on the leaderboards, too, which adds a whole other level to it.
Oh, for sure. And that's where it gets really technical.
Mhm.
To really dominate in Infinifactory, you got to think about logic gates, throughput, minimizing waste. It's almost like a game for spreadsheet lovers.
Haha, in a good way, though.
In a good way, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a very specific type of fun.
So we've got this brain-bending puzzle game where you're like an alien's personal engineer. Now let's totally switch gears. Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about Go Town. This one's early access, came out just this year.
Yeah, this one's riding that cozy games wave we've been seeing, right?
Oh, totally.
And it's interesting how many people are comparing it to Animal Crossing.
I saw that.
But like with more depth, you're rebuilding this adorable town. You get to attract residents, customize everything.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also resource management. Got to keep everyone happy and the town running.
Right, it's not just decoration.
Exactly. It's more than just looks. And one review, get this, calls it the magnum opus of town builders.
Huh.
And they're not just talking about the mechanics either. It's the cute little details, the chill atmosphere, secrets hidden all over the map.
It's that whole vibe.
It is. It's like a reaction to, all the stress and complexity of life.
Yeah.
People want these spaces where they can just relax, be creative, and feel like they're making progress without, like, the pressure of competition.
It makes sense. So we've got the brainiacs over in Infinifactory, the chill vibes in Go Town, and then we have Starground. What is even happening in Starground?
Oh, man. This is like if Infinifactory and Go Town had a baby and threw it into a dungeon. It's definitely a niche thing, but the people who love it, they really love it.
I can see that.
So the basic idea is you're building a base on your home planet, automating resources like in Factorio. But then you use those resources to craft weapons, gear, and explore these procedurally generated dungeons.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And just for anyone who hasn't heard that term, procedurally generated means the game creates the dungeons randomly every time. So you always get a different experience.
Yeah. Right. Makes it endlessly replayable.
Yeah.
And the cool part is, Starground isn't just snatching two genres together randomly.
Okay.
It makes the systems interact. Like, your base weapons directly affect how you fight in the dungeons. And the loot you find in the dungeons, you can use that to upgrade your base.
That's smart.
Yeah, so it's like this constant feedback loop between building, crafting, and exploring. And reviewers are loving the weapon customization. You can make all sorts of crazy builds, get really creative. And here's the thing. Starground is still in early access.
No way.
Yeah, so it's not even finished. But even now, people are buzzing about its potential. It shows, players are really looking for games that break those genre boundaries.
Yeah, they want something new.
Exactly. That's what gets them excited.
I mean, it makes sense. Why just build a factory when you can build a factory and then go raid a dungeon with the stuff you made?
Right. It's like the ultimate power fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, more is more. It's about those unexpected combinations that make you think, whoa, I never thought of that before.
Oh, definitely. So it seems like we're seeing this trend toward hybrid games. Like developers are asking, what if we took this cool mechanic from this genre and mashed it up with this other thing?
Yeah, it's like they're experimenting in the best possible way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it works brilliantly, and sometimes, well, let's just say it leads to some interesting results.
Oh, I'm sure we'll get into some of those later.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You included some real gems in your research.
Well, that's what deep dives are all about, right? Uncovering those hidden treasures. And speaking of treasures, you brought up a game that honestly the name didn't grab me at first.
Oh, which one?
I fetch rocks. I mean, come on. Is that what you do? Fetch
I
rocks.
know, right? The name's deceptive. But this VR game, it's anything but simple. It's been in early access for a while now, and people are going crazy for it. They're comparing it to Kerbal Space Program, but with a focus on actual engineering and systems.
Okay, that's more interesting than just fetching rocks. What does that even mean?
So imagine this. You're not just piloting a spaceship. You're building it, piece by piece, and then constantly tweaking it, upgrading its systems to become the ultimate rock-fetching machine.
So it's like a space engineer simulator.
Basically, it's like a virtual sandbox set in space. You're learning about circuits, logic gates, power management, all while trying to collect those precious, precious space rocks.
So it's educational and relaxing. That's a combo I didn't expect.
Right, and what's fascinating is how it balances those two sides. On one hand, you're solving these complex engineering puzzles, troubleshooting in real time. But on the other hand, there's this almost meditative quality to it. You're floating through space, listening to your ship hum, watching those rocks pile up.
Zen and the art of space rock maintenance, I kind of dig it.
And don't forget the community. The iFetchRocks devs are super active. They listen to feedback, add new features all the time. It creates this feeling that you're part of something bigger, contributing to the game's evolution.
That's always a good sign. Like you're not just playing a game, you're joining a community. People who are passionate about the same things you are.
Exactly. It's a shared experience.
Yeah.
Now, while iFetchRocks is pushing the boundaries of what we think of as a building and sim game, you also included one that's like revisiting the classics, but on a massive scale. I'm talking about Train World.
Ah, yes. Train World. This one takes building a train network and just blows it up. Instead of a few lines in a city, you're building networks that span continents.
It's like the devs looked at Transport Fever 2 and said, what if we made the map 100 times bigger and slowed everything down? And you know what? It works. Like, surprisingly well.
Yeah, reviewers are loving that sense of scale and realism. It's not just laying tracks, it's planning long term, anticipating demand, building a system that can actually handle moving stuff across vast distances.
And the pacing. Trains can take weeks, even months in game time to reach their destination.
Wow.
It makes you think strategically. Every decision has consequences that play out over years. It's almost like a slow burn strategy game.
Intriguing. And it sounds like they nailed the technical side, too. Reviewers say it runs smoothly even with tons of trains on these huge maps.
Yeah, it's impressive. It shows how far simulation tech has come. We're building these incredibly complex virtual worlds that react realistically to what you do. It's like we're interacting with living, breathing systems.
That's kind of the dream, isn't it? To build a world so real you forget it's a game. So we've got Kerbal Space Program meets rock collecting in space and a supersized slow-motion version of classic train sims. This genre's got it all.
It does, and it just keeps getting more diverse. Developers are constantly pushing the boundaries, trying new things.
Which makes you wonder, what's next?
Right, like what if someone combined the city building of Go-Go Town with the space exploration of iFetchRocks? You could design your own spaceships, gather resources from different planets, and then build your dream space city.
That would be amazing. And imagine it in VR, actually walking around your city, tweaking your spaceport, looking out from your orbital greenhouse.
Right. The possibilities are mind-blowing. And it's not just entertainment. These games can actually teach valuable skills.
Absolutely, like problem solving in Infinifactory or logistical planning in Train World.
Exactly. Games are becoming powerful learning tools. They're like interactive simulations where you can experiment, make mistakes, and learn from them in a safe environment.
It's like learning by doing, but without the real-world consequences. Who knows, maybe playing Train World could make someone a better city planner someday.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. And as these simulations get even more complex, adding in AI, physics, economics, the line between games and real-world training will get blurrier and blurrier.
It's a fascinating time to be following this genre. So what have we learned so far? These building and sim games are tapping into some pretty basic human desires, right? The need to create, to solve problems, to be challenged, but also to relax.
Exactly. It's about finding that perfect balance. And the cool thing is, this is just the beginning. As technology keeps evolving and developers keep innovating, we're going to see even more immersive, engaging, and thought-provoking experiences.
It's like we're at this crossroads of entertainment, education, and technology. Who knows what incredible virtual worlds we'll be building 10 years from now?
Right. The future's wide open. And one thing's for sure, it's going to be a lot of fun watching it unfold.
Absolutely. So, to all you listeners out there who are as fascinated by this genre as we are, keep exploring those Steam reviews, keep experimenting with different games, and keep that creative spark alive.
And whether you're building intricate factories, designing sprawling cities, or launching rockets into space, the most important thing is to have fun and let your imagination run wild.
Well said. Until next time, happy building.
Happy building.
It's like developers are saying, hey, what if we just took like the best parts of these different games and kind of mashed them together? And sometimes it works, like with Starground. But sometimes, well, you get some interesting experiments.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of experiments, you included one in your research called I Fetch Rocks.
Ah, yes. I fetch rocks.
No, I gotta admit, when I first saw that title, I was like, really? That's the whole game. You just fetch rocks.
The name is a little deceptive, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But then you start reading the reviews,
Yeah.
and people are comparing it to, like, Kerbal Space Program.
Really?
But with this focus on, like, actual engineering and systems design, you're not just piloting a spaceship. You're building it piece by piece
Okay.
and constantly tweaking it, upgrading it, all to make it better at, well, fetching rocks.
So Space Engineer Simulator.
Pretty much, it's like this virtual engineering sandbox, but in space.
Mm.
You learn about circuits, logic gates, power management, all while collecting these space rocks.
So it's educational and relaxing? That's a weird combo.
And that's what's so cool about it, right? It balances those two things so well.
Yeah.
On one hand, you're solving these complex puzzles, troubleshooting in real time. But then there's this almost meditative quality to it, too. You're floating through space, listening to your ship, watching those rocks pile up.
Zen and the art of space rock maintenance. I kind of love it.
Right. And the community. The developers are super active. They listen to feedback. They're always adding new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you feel like you're part of something, like you're helping the game evolve.
I like that. It's not just a game. It's like joining a community.
Exactly. It's a shared experience.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Fetch Rocks is definitely pushing the boundaries of what we consider like a traditional building and sim game.
Sure.
But you also included one that's more about, revisiting the classics.
Huh.
But on this massive scale. Train World. Have you looked at this one?
Oh, Train World. Yeah. This is the one that takes train networks to a whole other level.
A whole other level.
Instead of a few lines in a city or something, you're building networks that span continents. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's like they took those classic games like Transport Fever and just said, what if we made the map gigantic and slowed everything way down? And it works.
Yeah, the reviewers are loving the scale and the realism. It's not just laying track. It's long-term planning, anticipating demand, building a system that can handle, moving stuff across these huge distances.
And the pacing is so unique, trains can take weeks, even months to reach their destination. In game time, of course.
Wow.
It makes you think strategically, make decisions that will play out over years. It's like a slow burn strategy game, almost.
I like that. I like games that make you think long-term.
Me too. And from a technical standpoint, it's amazing. People say it runs so smoothly, even with hundreds of trains running on these huge maps. It's a testament to how far simulation technology has come.
It's impressive. We can build these complex virtual worlds that react to what we do. It's like they're almost alive. So we've got Kerbal Space Program meets rock collecting in space and a supersized slow-motion train simulator. This genre is wild.
It is wild. It's constantly evolving, trying new things, and it makes you wonder what's next, right? What crazy combinations are we going to see? Like, what if someone took that city building from Go-Go Town and mashed it up with the space exploration of I Fetch Rocks? You could design your own spaceships, go gather resources from different planets, and then use that stuff to build, like, your ultimate space city.
Okay, yeah. And with VR getting more popular, imagine, like, actually walking around your city, tweaking the layout of your spaceport, admiring the view from your orbital greenhouse. That's the dream.
It's amazing to think about. And it's not just about entertainment, is it? These games, they can teach you real skills.
Oh, totally. Think about Infinifactory and all that problem solving you have to do. Or Train World and the planning, the logistics.
Right. You're learning by doing, but it's fun. And who knows? Maybe playing a game like Train World could actually make someone a better city planner in real life.
Wouldn't that be something? And as these games get more and more complex, incorporating AI and physics and even economics, it's like the line between games and real-world training, it just gets blurrier.
It's true. So to bring it all back to our deep dive today, what have we seen? These building and sim games, they're tapping into something really human, you know? That urge to create, to solve problems, to be challenged and relaxed at the same time.
Yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. And the exciting thing, this is just the start. Technology keeps advancing. Developers are going to keep innovating. We're going to see even more immersive, engaging, mind-blowing experiences in the future.
I can't wait. It feels like we're at this incredible point where entertainment and education and technology, it's all coming together. Who knows what we'll be building 10 years from now?
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And one thing's for sure, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch it all unfold.
Absolutely. So to all you listeners out there who are just as into this stuff as we are, keep exploring those Steam reviews, keep experimenting with different games, and keep that creative spark alive.
Yeah. Whether you're building factories or designing cities or launching rockets into space, the most important thing is to have fun. And let your imagination run wild.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Ah.
Until next time, happy building.